On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, they improved to 5 wins in a row, 17-12 on the season. A tough one against the Toronto Raptors. We break down how it got done, how we got here, as we look ahead to the Sixers' final two games of the homestand next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, you are Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Gibbons from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, alongside my co-host, Keith Pompey, Sixers beat writer for the Enquirer.com. What's up, Keith?
What's good, man? How you doing, D?
Doing all right, man. A win on Monday night over the Toronto Raptors for the Sixers. So, hey, we'll talk about it, break it all down. Before we get started, let's think.
But you know what? I'm going to just say this, man. I don't care if they win or lose. I don't care. You know what I mean?
I know you don't. But the people out there do and want to hear what you have to say. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms.
What's up, my man? You good?
At Locked On 76ers. A 104-101 overtime win, now 5 in a row, 17-12 on the season, still in the fifth seed in the Eastern Conference, a half game up on the New York Knicks, who have won 7 in a row. The Brooklyn Nets are in front of them with a game and a half, I believe they have on the Sixers. They have won 6 games in a row. So everyone's hot. But most importantly, the thing that we're talking about here, the Sixers win. Joel Embiid with 28, 21 from Tobias Harris. He was phenomenal. 7 of 9 shooting, 5 for 7 from deep, and hit the only bucket that was needed in overtime with their 5-2 win in overtime. He had a three-pointer, had another one taken away from him because of an offensive foul called on PJ Tucker, pushing Scotty Barnes into Harris, landing underneath him, falling after making the shot. It was an and one, but it was negated. It was a win, Keith, and they are now riding a 5-game winning streak with this win over the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, it was a win. It was a much-needed win, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, as you mentioned beforehand, the Brooklyn Nets are on a winning streak. The New York Knicks are on a winning streak. So, I mean, the Sixers have to continue on. I mean, it's going to come a point where somebody's going to lose, but I think in order for them to stay where they are, the thing that really stuck out to me was that, this is a game that the Sixers probably would have lost earlier in the season. Not probably, they would have lost. It's definitely a game that they would have lost last year. How many times do we remember seeing them go out there and they have a double-digit lead and then end up losing it and blowing it? I think that, it is one of those things where they're starting to gel a little bit. Now, I don't think they played particularly well outside of Tobias Harris, but at the same time, it was one of those things that they were able to weather the storm, so to speak, and take advantage of certain things down the stretch. But a win is a win, and is good for them. There are certain things that I feel like they need to correct. Like Tobias Harris was 3 for 3 in the first quarter, and those 3 shots came early. He didn't even sniff the ball at all in the second quarter. In the third quarter, he was 2 for 4, and he only had 1 shot attempt in the fourth quarter. I feel like, and he made the shot attempt, like you said, in overtime. But I just felt like it went to a point where they just went away from him, and I feel like you got to stay with that hot hand. But again, a win is a win. They're kind of hold and serve, with Brooklyn and the Knicks right now.
And just to follow up on the win is a win is a win, that's the nature of an 82-game schedule. It's not always pretty. You wish it was oftentimes, and they found a way to get it done. The tough part, of course, was that they let, again, an 11-point halftime lead just go away, and Toronto took over in that third specifically. Pascal Siakam took over in that third quarter, scoring 16 points and giving the defense fits in that third quarter to help storm back and eventually tie the game. And they later on took the lead, a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter. So showed a lot, especially with DeAnthony Melton not making shots last night, Keith. And he hit 2 big 3-pointers in the fourth quarter to help continue to close that gap and give them an opportunity to take that lead late on a James Harden layup and eventually force the overtime. Toronto did, but winning in the end. So, yeah, a win is a win. And when you're talking about game number 29 on the season and where they have been in the past, as you talked about, knowing that they probably would have struggled to pull this game out early on in the season, you look at this one and you say you take it because you have to just simply start compiling those wins to keep pace in the Eastern Conference. When you have New York and Brooklyn doing what they're doing, I'm sure they've won some close ones. Heck, New York needed a buzzer beater against Toronto to beat them. And the same thing here with the Sixers where they needed overtime. So when we look at those other teams and we see how theirs happened, we don't know every story of how they got to their 7 and their 6 wins respectively for those two clubs. We do know here. And sometimes you do have to win those close games like that one. So we saw a lot of good stuff early. I thought they would take more of an advantage against them because Toronto did play on Sunday night. But when they did sprint out to that lead early on, Toronto came right back and made their own run into the game. So a win. And you just try to rebound from it, get ready for Detroit on Wednesday, focus on the things that need to be corrected, and do so against a bad 8-win Detroit team on Wednesday and try to just simply knock them out. So those are my thoughts also, that a win is a win. You take it how it comes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one thing they need to do though is, and we'll talk about this, I guess, in the next segment. A win is a win, but they got to show me a little bit more in order for me to consider them as a team that's going to contend for the East. I just don't see it right now. I mean, I just don't. A win is a win and it's good, but they got to play a whole lot better basketball in order for them to be able to beat, the elite teams.
All right. Well, we'll do that next as Keith just laid that one out right here on Locked On 76ers. Want to about the fact that, hey, the holidays are here. We're into the holiday week, the Christmas week. A lot of people traveling. Turo, is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. You may want to get some assistance while driving around. Big presents, family, spot to spot. You don't want to use your vehicle and you want to go with a different type of car. Well, Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. How about a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday? Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just simply need to get from A to B. Test drive the new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Taro.com. Make sure you get there, Taro.com, as you get ready for the holidays and you need a new car when you go into your hometown, maybe back to see your family. So jump right into that. Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. Make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today for the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. So when you want the biggest takes of the day in less than 20 minutes, the big sports world, how about crazy losses in the NFL? Like, Keith, did you see how New England lost that game to the Las Vegas Raiders? On
Nah.
that, man, you need to see that one because I'm sure
Yeah, I saw it.
That one on the Locked On 76 on the Locked On Today podcast. Weird way to lose a game.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you know what? Stuff happens though. You know what I mean? I know everybody. People were saying like today, certain people, like I saw like on Sports Center on ESPN, they talking about like that's worst loss. I'm like, I've actually seen some like worse ones, like, you know what I mean, through the years, and they saying it was a dumb play. You know what? Yeah, whenever stuff goes, it did look kind of crazy. But if the dude would have like converted it and the quarterback would have caught it and then threw it downfield to somebody or whatever happened, like who knows? Then all of a sudden it wouldn't have been, you know what I mean? It was bad, but
It was terrible.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's easy for us to say that when it happens, but then when it goes the right way, it's like, oh my gosh, what? How great play. I don't know. I've seen worse. I've seen worse. I've seen worse.
I have not.
Yeah, I've seen worse. I've seen
you,
worse.
you get down. You go to overtime and give yourself a chance. That's what you do. All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Sixers gave themselves a chance in the overtime, but Keith, it still wasn't enough. Even on the 5-game winning streak, enough for you to say that they are the contending team, as you talked about before the break. What is it that's still holding you back?
You know what? Like, I wasn't really impressed with. See, the thing about the Sixers that they have to get out of, it's kind of like when everything goes well, there's perfect ball movement. But then when they start getting tight a little bit, the sign of them is the ball sticks, the hero ball, this and that. And I just feel like, you can't do that against good teams. And then also it's kind of like, the one thing is a win is a win is a win, a win is a win. But the concerning part to me is like, these were two bad teams they played. Well, one team was depleted and the other team was just bad. Like last night's team is bad and depleted. So it's kind of like, sometimes you gotta knock them out. Like it's good to win, but you gotta knock them out. So to me, are we hyping them up a little bit too much, or
I
or
don't think
is it
I don't think
lack
so.
of, motivation at times? And in both, like you gotta like just kill these teams because these should be the nights where you get this lead, you do what you gotta do, and then all of a sudden you playing the reserves, letting them rest. You know what I mean? Because like Joel Embiid walked out of the building limping. You know what I'm saying?
He's
So,
always limping. I
but
don't know.
he's all but still, the fact that he's limping is still something that you got to keep an eye on because typically when Joel walks out of the building limping, then the next game he doesn't play. Like a lot of times, you know what I mean? Recently, so I mean, what I'm saying is could it been avoided if they would have done what they were supposed to? And the fact that like when you got a guy like Tobias who's baking and cooking, and you don't understand that, I mean, you got to get the guy the ball. You just have to. Everybody. That's on everyone. So when I look at this team right now, I'm looking at it, and I'm saying to myself, y'all played a team in the Toronto Raptors coming off a win is a win, but you're playing a team in the Toronto Raptors coming off a second game of a back-to-back who had to go through customs the whole nine, shot horribly, and y'all had to go to overtime. You won the game, but that didn't show me anything that's going to say they're going to be able to beat the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Milwaukee Bucks. So I mean, I just need to see a little bit more. You know what I mean? I just need to see a little bit more.
Well, we've also seen them when they played on the second night of a back-to-back lose themselves against the Charlotte Hornets. When they beat the Brooklyn Nets that Tuesday night, they went to Charlotte and lost to them. We've seen it both ways, where
Yeah, but we talking about but you got to understand something. That was a Sixers team without they head honchos,
Mhm.
right? That was a Sixers team that this is right now. This is like you don't have Maxi, but they're on a 5-game winning streak. This is the best they've been playing all year. So the stuff that we saw like that happened in the past, I'm trying to throw it all out. I'm throwing out like there was a point in last night's game where the Sixers looked like the team playing on a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it looked like to me that the Toronto Raptors ran out of gas in the end, missing those shots and stuff like that. So I understand what you were saying, losing to Charlotte. But again, great teams, they don't lose games like that.
Well, I saw Boston just lost 2 to Orlando, and we look at them as a championship contender.
Yeah, but
So
I
it's
don't. I bet
and
you.
they lost them in Boston.
Yeah, but the last I checked, Boston hung it on the Sixers pretty handily the last 3 times they played the
But
Sixers.
like you said, we're looking at right now, not looking
Yeah,
back
well,
there.
they got the same dudes who got the like. Believe me, they ain't on that level right now. I mean, I understand what you're
They
saying, but
lost.
yeah, they lost. But see, that's the thing. But did you lose because you overlooked them
I didn't
or
watch
this
the
and
game.
that?
I
Yeah.
just
So
know
this one,
I know
yeah.
they had a home and I know they had a 2-game series and they lost both
Yeah,
games.
but I can't really focus on Boston right now. In regards to them losing games and winning games, I just know that they got championship, caliber type of
Mhm.
players.
They absolutely
Playing with
do.
Milwaukee, they went. Last I checked, you can't. The Sixers didn't get out of the second round yet, so it's just a different level, in my opinion. Like I'm just telling you with my opinion, and I don't think that right now they on that level. Can they get there? Yeah. Is it mental? Maybe. Is it they just don't have it? Who knows? But what I'm just saying is it's like right now, this is one of these teams that you supposed to just do it to. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just knock them out, right? To me, you just can't keep letting these teams hang around. You just can't. You can't because especially when you got a 37-year-old power forward, you got a 33-year-old point guard, you got a 28-year-old center who's injury prone. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where you got to just like take the wheel out and then just do it and then you rest up. You know what I'm saying?
Whenever you let a bad team hang around, they get some confidence and they stick in there. And they did that
Exactly.
tonight. Yeah, last night, the Toronto Raptors did. I guess the only other part would be whenever Tyrese Maxey comes back, maybe it is different. And we've seen him beat bad teams. We've seen him crush bad teams, like that revenge game against Charlotte at the beginning of this homestand, where they knocked them out and they never had a chance. So we'll see what they do against Detroit. They struggled against Toronto tonight. They had the weekend off. We'll see what they do against a bad Detroit team with only 8 wins coming in here on Wednesday. All right, Keith, final segment. You talk about, as you pointed out, I wanted to focus a little bit more on Tobias Harris because how could we not? The guy has been playing some really good basketball, shooting at a pretty good percentage behind the 3-point line. You guys spoke to him after the game, and he's in a really good place. Doc Rivers had some really nice things to say about him. So did Joel Embiid. We'll talk about Tobias Harris, who really stood out as one of the real positives in the game that the Sixers won on Monday night over that bad or struggling 6 losses in a row Toronto team. We'll get into that next right here. Locked on 76ers.
Let's talk about Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We got it all on Bet Online. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at Bet Online as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Hey, before we talk about Tobias, though, you
Mm-hmm.
think the Sixers could beat the Boston Celtics?
Are you talking about in the series?
I mean, and yeah,
Because
you think they
if
can
it
beat
only
them in the
matters
series?
is playoffs is a series. Are we talking series? No. Today, no, I don't.
You think they can beat Milwaukee in the series?
Today, no. But can you ask me that when Tyrese Maxey comes back?
All right, I'm asking you now. Do you with Tyrese Maxey? Do you think if Tyrese Maxey is playing at a high level, you think they can beat those teams?
Uh, I think they can push it to 7 games against Boston. Milwaukee, no.
What about Brooklyn?
I think they match up better against Boston than they do against Milwaukee. And I think with Maxey, no, I just don't think today that they would beat them. No.
All right.
No. But I think they can give them a good series. I really do. I do. So yeah, that's where I am. Tobias Harris, though, 21 points, 7 for 9 from the floor, 5 for 7 from deep. He is shooting 58% from three, Keith, in the month of December, 6 games that we have to go off of. He's averaging 20 points and, again, shooting very well from the floor. Also, so far this month, he's been on a really good tear. And I know we talked about him quite a bit over these last few games. But he has been that good where it warrants another conversation because he was the one bright spot, as you talked about. You felt he should have had more touches in the game, but man, he is hitting these shots again. That 3-pointer that he made that was taken away, 24 points probably right there. Forget about the free throw that would have came afterwards, but he's just been hitting the shots, man, and hitting them pretty well. And he looks like he's really finding a good place within the flow of this offense with Tyrese Maxey out. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as what he said, I just wanted to read you what Joel Embiid said about him. Said it was great. He's a star in his role. That's what he's been doing all season, knocking down big shots, even the ones that got taken away for whatever reason. He's been great. And that's what Joel Embiid had to say about his teammate, Tobias Harris. And he has been working on everything. You know, he said after the game, Keith, on television, tell a friend that he's a knockdown shooter. And that's what he's been doing.
Yeah, he's an I mean, he's been doing it. I mean, when you look at it, that wasn't his game a couple years ago, especially not when he was with the Clippers. He was more of he wasn't a catch and shoot type of guy. He was more of like the ball in his hands, a pick and roll type of player. So you have to say that this guy has really evolved, and he's done whatever he can to fit in. The one point, the big question mark is with Tobias moving forward is how much involved is he going to remain in the offensive flow when Maxey comes back? You know what I mean? How much? Now, the good part for Tobias is that, they need somebody who's going to be catch and shoot. Last year, they needed him to do that once James came. He couldn't do it. Like, he was struggling. Right now, he's knocking down these shots. So if he can do that, it's only going to make them a little bit more potent, right? And then maybe they could beat some of these teams that I don't think they can beat right now. But also, I tell you what, it also changes the narrative too, because there was a point where people were saying he has to go, get rid of him. We don't like him, we don't want him, and now it's kind of like, okay, well, are you going to get somebody that's going to be better? Especially in that starting lineup that's going to be able to knock down shots like that. So Tobias is really playing well, but the main question is how much more involved is he going to stay in the offense once Maxey comes back?
Well, everyone says the right things. When hearing Tyrese Maxey interviewed, he said, I just want to come back and fit in where I can. My points will come to me because, he'll just get him transition. They'll get him with the ball on the move, give him those opportunities. He was hitting his 3-pointers, of course, at the start of the season at a very good clip. Also, another good development for him dating back to last season into this season. So it's going to be up to the coaching staff to figure out how to keep Harris in that, involved in the offense, and then also integrating Maxey back into it where you're not interrupting much when you have all 4 of those players all together for the first time in quite some time. So we'll see. It's going to be the coach's job
Yeah, but
to figure out.
question for you though: do you like? Here's the thing: you play
Mhm.
basketball, right?
Uh-huh.
You've been covering. We've been you've been a reporter, radio guy for the longest, right? Whenever you ask a dude something, they always say, "I just want to come in and integrate. We're gonna play team ball." Not saying they're selfish ball players at all, because they're not. But Maxi's role on his team, he ain't a facilitator. He ain't getting nobody to rock. His
Not at all.
role is to go downhill and score.
Yep.
And James loves giving him passes on the outlet. So that's going to take away from what Tobias is doing, right? You're going to have the big three, and then Tobias is going to be the fourth option. So the thing is like everybody, they're going to outwardly, everybody's going to say they're happy, but are you going to be able to deal with when you're eating the way you are, knowing you're going to lose some touches? Because let's face it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just how many that he has. Because Maxi, you know, the problem with Maxi is when he has his off games is when he doesn't attack, when he's trying to get others involved, when he's taking a back seat. He has to be the attack mode because his aggressiveness is what kept him in certain games. Like they're an older team. He's a young guy who can get out and go. So, it all sounds good and we all say that, but it's going to be different. It's going to be a little different. It is. It's going to be different, especially probably in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So it's just going to, how is Tobias going to adapt to that? You know what I mean? Because Maxi can say what he want, but he going to be running up and down the court, going 100 miles an hour, getting his 20 points a game. And how are they going to work with Tobias? Because you know what? James is a facilitator, but he likes shooting the ball too. And Joel going to give you 30, so what's going to happen?
Well, we'll see if they learn something during this time about them being able to trust Tobias more and doing things within the flow of the offense during this time where all three of them have been out at some point for some extended period of time. Keith,
Yeah.
that'll do it for us as we get ready for the Detroit Pistons on Wednesday. We'll be back with everybody, hanging out with you on Wednesday, getting you set for the 8-win Detroit Pistons and how the Sixers get that one done. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. Now make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today podcast available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Keith, you mind letting the good people know where they can, in fact, find us?
Yeah, wherever you can get your podcast at, you can get the Locked On 76ers podcast, in addition on the YouTube channel. So when you click on the YouTube channel, what you can do is just click on that Liberty Bell, and then you become a new subscriber. Also, make sure you listen to my man D on 97.5 FM tonight from 10:15 to midnight. So make sure you listen to him. And then also follow him on Twitter on Divine G975. You can follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, and you can read my articles on Enquirer.com and the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Well, Keith, talk to you tomorrow, man. Pistons coming into town. See if Sixers can get their 6th win in a row. Thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Peace, brother.
Thanks, everybody.